welcome. You're watching Medically Speaking with me, Meenakshi Upreti. I'm being joined by a man who needs no introduction. Someone who is an authority when we speak, of course, of issues liver, gastro, etc. We have, of course, Professor Arora. He's the head of the gastro department of the Sir Gangaram Hospital. Thank you, sir, for joining us on NewsX. My very first question to you. Just a few days ago, it was a very significant day, the World Liver Day. So significant, so important. Liver, of course, an organ which keeps us alive. It keeps, I was watching your interview, you said it keeps serving us selflessly. But despite of that, so little knowledge around it. Why is that? Why is liver so significant, first of all? Why do we need to take such good care of it?
Yeah, I think, thank you, Meenakshi, for having me on your show. It is an important message on the World Liver Day that we should start respecting the organ, which is the second largest organ in the body. This is the organ without which you cannot live for even few minutes. This is the organ which keeps serving you throughout your life, even before you were born. That means this guy had been producing blood for you when you were in the womb of your mother. As in the fetal life, this starts preparing blood for you when the bone marrow is not mature enough to produce blood for you. So right from the time when you were not even born till you die at the age of say 90 or 100 years, this is innocent person who selflessly, without being a complainer, keeps on working for you without asking for any maintenance or care for next 100 years. So it is a high time on this World Liver Day, we should try to understand and pay our gratitude to this organ which has been working for you selflessly throughout your life. It provides and performs a myriad of functions, and we should be aware of it.
Right. So, you speak of the significance of liver, but there are various ailments affecting our liver. One of them, of course, and the very common one, hepatitis. Tell us a little more about that, the types of hepatitis, how it affects our liver, and what, of course, the diagnosis, which is extremely important, but very elusive.
Yeah. You see, there are two types of viral infections which tend to affect the liver. The one set of the infection is called acute infections. That could be in the form of viral hepatitis A, B, C, D, E, F, etc. Then you have other non-hepatic viruses like coronavirus, like dengue fever, like cytomegalovirus, which primarily affect other organs, and as an innocent bystander, the liver gets damaged during the discourse of the illness. But coming to the specific viruses which cause injury to the liver in the acute phase, in children, the commonest virus which damages the liver is called hepatitis A. And fortunately, we have vaccine which is easily available for it. But you'll be surprised to know, Meenakshi, that majority of us do not take this vaccine because of the lack of the awareness. Hepatitis E is another virus which in the acute phase tends to cause inflammation in the liver called acute hepatitis. And that is particularly dangerous in women who are pregnant. In the third trimester of the pregnancy, it can lead to mortality, which could be to the tune of 10 to 20%. Imagine a young girl recently getting married, goes to a honeymoon, gets an infection, comes back with jaundice, and during her third trimester of the pregnancy, if you unfortunately tend to have viral hepatitis E, it has pretty ominous complications. Unfortunately, there is no vaccine for hepatitis E. But fortunately, both for A and E, if you take care of your good potable drinking water, do not consume contaminated water, you will not be able to have, you will not be getting this acute viral hepatitis like A and E into your liver.
Right.
The
and
second
so,
set of viruses is hepatitis viruses, which are chronic viruses, that is hepatitis B and C. Now, hepatitis B and C are transmitted through the needle, pricks, blood transfusion, tattooing, sexual intercourse, drug abuse, and getting shaving or razors from outside. So if you have any intervention which causes pricking of your subcutaneous tissue or transgression of the normal boundaries of the protection like skin and the mucous membrane, like blood transfusion, surgery, needle prick, trauma, dental manipulation, all of these are the potent sources of infection for hepatitis B and C. And these are the viruses which tend to remain in a silent manner in the liver, and over the decades, they'll end up producing chronic liver disease called cirrhosis and liver cancer.
And that's exactly what I was, driving at also, sir. Hepatitis B, of course, common in India and also very elusive. Very rightly you said the diagnosis is elusive. It can just remain dormant for years altogether. And it's only at a later stage that, a person may become acutely aware of it in the form of cirrhosis. But is there anything which one can do to, if not reverse, but to contain it? Liver at the end of the day, and I've heard it from many experts, that it's a disease which can be maintained with your lifestyle. Lifestyle, of course, holds key to all those who are suffering with chronic liver disease, isn't it, sir?
Yeah. You see, in hepatitis B and C, once they tend to have a good grip on the liver on a prolonged manner, we call it a chronic hepatitis B and C. Now, chronic hepatitis B and C tends to remain in a dormant manner, as you very rightly said, and does not cause any symptom. Unfortunately, by the time symptoms tend to crop up, of which the patient becomes aware of, then the stage is too bad and too advanced for the doctors to intervene. So before going on to the same stage, if you can go and check your blood for hepatitis B and C, get a simple ultrasound or a fibroscan, especially if you have history of interventions like blood transfusions, surgeries, stitches, trauma, dental interventions, or say pricking of the nose and the ears with the needles, and if you have a family member who is suffering from hepatitis B and C. So if you come up early for diagnosis, we pick up the disease in the nascent stage of the illness, then we can offer you almost curative treatment. But unfortunately, majority of the patients are not aware of the symptom. They do not come for the checkup. And by the time we end up diagnosing advanced disease, there is very little we can do about curing the disease at that stage.
Right. And also, sir, you said early diagnosis is key, isn't it? Prevention, yes. Lifestyle management, yes. End of the day, what matters a lot is early diagnosis. Tell us and help us understand what are the early manifestations. You said, of course, for hepatitis, anyone who has all the symptoms or family history, etc., needs to check themselves. But what about others? Perhaps fatty liver, and other diseases. How is it that one can actually go for a self-examine or go for an examination to even help doctors like yourself diagnose the disease early?
Yeah. I think that is very relevant question which you have raised, very pertinent, because unfortunately, fatty liver disease or early stages of the chronic hepatitis in the liver do not produce sufficient symptoms for you to be aware of it. So the only way is then if you can just remember the cardinal reasons why the liver gets ultimately affected. First of all, and first and foremost is your weight of the body. So if you are overweight, you are likely to have fat in the liver. And the more the liver gets fat in the liver, the more is the likely chance that the fat cells in the liver will keep on choking the normal functioning of the cells, leading to the dysfunction of the liver. So as the number of the cells, the size of the cells, and the degree of fatty infiltration increases, you have a more and more liver dysfunction. So by the time liver dysfunction occurs, you already have an advanced disease. So first and foremost is that just look at your weight. Are you overweight? If you're overweight, get your blood sugar checked, get your blood pressure checked up, your lipid profile, and simply get an ultrasound, liver function, and fibroscan. So this gives plenty of information to you whether you have been already having an advanced liver disease. If you have been drinking alcohol, if you have been constantly taking food from outside, if you are diabetic, all the more reason you should be really careful about your liver function. Because if you diagnose liver function, we have excellent curative treatments which are available. The only way is, as I mentioned, that once you have all telltale evidence of, say, previous surgery, previous blood transfusion, dental manipulation, stitches in the past, family history, all these patients should come forward for checkup rather than waiting for the symptom to develop. By that time, the stage may be too advanced.
Checkups instead of waiting for symptoms is key here. But also, since you mentioned not just hepatitis, you also, in a passing mention, you mentioned coronavirus. We are seeing the cases rise once again. We've seen, of course, Delta wave, Omicron effect. Almost every second person of our population, especially the metropolitans, help us understand what are the after effects of coronavirus. Long COVID, does it affect the liver? Any cases which you're personally seeing?
Yeah, if you see, coronavirus has 3 types of injuries to the liver. It can per se affect the biliary tract, which has a lot of ACE2 receptors. If you remember, ACE2 receptors are the primary receptors by which this perfidious virus tends to gain entry into the epithelial cells of the lung and the various organs. Similarly, GI tract and the biliary tract, and not the liver per se, has enough quantity and the number and the type of the receptors which facilitate the entry of the COVID virus into these tissues. If you remember, we did report on your channel number of the perforated gallbladders which were reported in patients who were coming during the Delta wave of the COVID-19 infection. So first is it can directly affect the GI tract and the biliary tract. Secondly, once you have a COVID-19 infection occurring anywhere in the body, liver being the pivotal organ, which is the central transaction point for immunomodulation of the various responses which are occurring in the body. So secondary liver can get infected. Thirdly, all drugs which you give for COVID-19 infection, be it the antiviral drugs, immunosuppressive drugs, or the drugs to take care of the allergy, every drug has to necessarily be metabolized in the liver. So if you have a borderline liver, like a fatty liver or a hepatitis B containing liver, you are more prone to toxicity by the drugs which are being given for the liver. So liver gets affected in COVID, both because of the direct effect as well as a collateral damage because of the inflammation and the drugs being given for the disease other than in the liver.
Right, and my last question to you, sir, as you sign off, any advice you'd like to give people on such an important day? It's a day of, raising awareness. The intent of this conversation with you also was to create public awareness around, of course, liver. What will be your last message to the people watching the show, sir?
Yeah, I think if you can just count on the fingertips 4 or 5 important points, I think there is a good 80 to 90% chance that you'll be able to ward off the liver injury. And even if you have liver injury, if you take care of these 4 or 5 points, you'll be able to prevent the ongoing damage and prevent yourself from having an ominous disease called cirrhosis of the liver. Just maintain your body weight, check your weight almost on daily basis. Do not drink alcohol, control your blood sugar, do not try to eat the fast food, do the exercises regularly, check up for hepatitis B and C, and once in 6 months or a year, do look for your lipids, liver function test, and if need be, a fibro scan. So simple cardinal features, which are a part of the day-to-day activity, certainly can go a long way in giving tribute to the organ which has been working for you selflessly throughout the life.
Well said, sir, and very, beautifully summarized, of course, with a public service message for the people. I hope that the people are listening and they take your advice seriously and, of course, follow all the steps which you have just mentioned. For now, so thank you for joining us on NewsX.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.